Alexis. Now, this is the first time I'm actually able to say welcome back. You are a very busy girl.
Thank you for having me.
You're a podcaster, you're a neuroscientist, you're an author, 4-time. What's one thing about you that most people don't know about?
Everyone would say you lose your identity when you become a mum and it takes years to get it back. That to me was something that never happened. It's very important that you always do something that's for yourself. If you're always living for someone else, those people are going to need you less and less and you're going to feel redundant.
Knowing what you know about the brain, what is the worst thing that you can do for your brain?
There's recent studies that came out where screen time with children showed a reduction in white matter in the brain. Be bored and allow a stream of consciousness and creativity emerges.
If you know what you know now, what's one piece of advice that you'd give yourself?
I would...
Alexis. Now, this is the first time I'm actually able to say welcome back.
Is it?
You are my first repeat guest.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, this is so special. Thank you.
Special. Well, I think it's actually really funny because this morning on my way here, I listened to our episode, which was episode 10.
I loved that episode.
Back. And I wanted to hear like what we were talking about, what life stages we were at. You obviously hadn't had your 2 babies.
Yeah.
You weren't even pregnant at that time.
No. When did we, that was
2 years ago.
2024, I was going to say 2004. 2024
was a long time ago.
Long time.
24, yeah.
Yeah.
So it was like we were talking about, you know, way different things. And I kind of thought, I was like, wow, we were so different then to what we are now. Like your life has changed so much in that time. And I'm like, it's so nice because to revisit that and then look at where you are now, but then also reflect on where I am now and where the podcast is now. It's crazy. So thank you for being my first repeat guest.
Of course. Thank you for having me again.
I wouldn't have it any other way. Now I want to start by understanding one thing about you. We've obviously been friends for a while. What's one thing about you that most people don't know about?
One thing that I think maybe might be a surprise is that I, all through primary school, had like 2 friends and was very timid and I was extremely shy.
Polar opposite to what you are now.
Polar opposite to what I am now. And I didn't speak English when I started school, even though I was born in Australia. So like I could understand English.
Yeah.
But my parents are South American, so I was first generation Australian. I am. And we just spoke Spanish at home. And they did that on purpose because they were like, we know you'll pick up English, no problem, but we want you to be fluent in Spanish. So that was the language we spoke at home. And I knew English because obviously, you know, daycare and TV, you're exposed to it. So, and children like pick up a language with no problem. But I started like kindergarten and I didn't speak English, which is hilarious. And that also probably led me to be quite timid at school, even though within a few weeks I was speaking English. Like if you're under the age of 6 and you're fully immersed, you learn a language fluently in 6 weeks.
Totally.
But then I was like really shy and timid, but really outgoing at home. So I always wanted to be outgoing because I was like that with my extended family, my cousins. But it took us moving from Sydney to Queensland. And I literally, as a 10-year-old, I was thinking, this is my chance to actually be myself outside of the home, outside of the family. Because I felt like even as a child, I was like, everyone just knows me as the timid kid. So I almost had to like remove myself from that environment altogether when we moved to Queensland. And that was my chance to like be the bubbly social person that I always have been. Yeah, so probably that. Yeah.
No, I love that. Do you speak fluent now?
Yes.
Still? Yeah.
Yes. It's not as perfect as my English, like obviously now English is obviously by far the dominant language. Yes. But yeah, I can speak fluent Spanish and
Spanish for me.
Bueno, ¿qué quieres que te diga? What do you want me to say?
Love. Okay. Now, you recently become a mum.
Yes.
Congratulations. We've obviously seen each other, et cetera, and talked about it, and it feels weird saying congratulations now. But twins.
Yeah.
Take me back to the moment that you first discovered that you were having twins.
Do you know, it was a year and 3 days ago today that I found out that, I was actually looking back at the photos and I was saying to Tyrone, because I obviously remember when I found out I was pregnant as like the day and everything, but I was like, oh my God, this is the time that we found out it was twins, because I was very relaxed about the pregnancy.
I know.
Even though it took us 2 years to fall pregnant. You would think that I'd be like all over it. But I wasn't, because found out we were pregnant and I thought, oh my God, amazing. Didn't think about getting a dating scan, nothing. I had my appointment with the obstetrician and he calls and he's like, hey, where's your scan? Because you've got the blood test and everything come through, but where's your scan? I was like, oh, no, I haven't gotten one yet. He's like, well, we're at the 10-week mark. I'm seeing you in 2 days. Do you mind getting one? Because then we've got nothing to talk about unless you've got a scan. I'm like, yeah, sure. So I didn't get my scan until 10 weeks, which most people do prior to that. Went in, everything was normal, we're sitting there and she, we immediately, it comes up on the screen and you can see two. And I was like, what am I looking at right now? Like, what am I looking at?
I'm no scientist. Well, you are a scientist. But
yeah, but I'm like, I'm not a, what do you call it, a sonographer?
Yeah.
I was like, I don't, and I was thinking, is this a duplicate screen? You know how sometimes those ultrasound things are weird? But this is probably all in the span of 2 seconds, but it stretched out in my mind. And yeah, the sonographer, I believe that's the name, she stops the thing and she was like, so you're having twins? And I speechless. I'm rarely speechless, rarely.
I'm quickly interrupting the episode before we get in too deep. If you want behind the scenes thoughts that I don't always share on the mic, as well as exclusive events, cheat sheets and workshop invites, they go to my email list. You can sign up in the show notes. That's where the real stuff lives. Now back to the episode.
And I look over at Tyrone, his jaw is on the floor. He was more speechless. We were like no words.
Yeah.
No words.
Can you remember what that first thought, even if you didn't vocalize it, that first thought that you were like, fuck, I'm having twins?
It was, I can't explain it to you. It's like when something's such a surprise that you can't even visualize your future, it was not remotely negative, the feeling, but it was just like, it was the biggest curveball of my life. But weirdly, I was instantly excited. There was this feeling of like, this is epic. Even though I hadn't even thought, wait a minute, everything that we had planned, everything's going to change. We lived in a 1-bedroom apartment and we thought maybe we could do 6 months with the baby before we have to move. We walked out of there being like, we need to move now. What are we doing? We walked out of there just in a daze. Yeah.
Crazy. Yeah. And obviously, so much has changed. Obviously, now being a mum of 2, is there a misconception or something like that you had about motherhood that now, having lived through it and gone through it, you're like, oh fuck, that was so wrong?
Yes, there is, and it is. And I want to preface this by saying that obviously every single person's situation is different.
Of course.
I am in a position where I still work, so. I took 2 months completely off and so I'm still working, Tyrone works, so there is that balance that we have. I have a lot of help from my parents, my sister, Tyrone's mum. Tyrone is a great partner who wants to be a dad, so he's obviously like a dad. I don't even want to say hands-on or involved because I think that's a ridiculous title for the parent of a child. So he's, and I knew that before we would had kids, I specifically chose him based on these qualities. So my experience, because of how my life is set up, is everyone would say you lose your identity when you become a mum and it takes years to get it back. That to me was something that never happened. And I want to say that because I think a lot of people fear that happening, and I'm not discrediting the people that it happens to, but I also want people to know that it doesn't always happen. And it didn't happen at the beginning, it didn't happen, and it's been 6 months and it hasn't happened. And if anything, I'm getting more and more of the hang of it, so I don't see it happening.
Yeah.
I find already, and even from the beginning, a very good balance. Has a lot changed? Massively, of course. And you have to expect change. You can't say nothing's going to change. Because if you tell yourself nothing's going to change, I think you will have a freak out moment. I was expecting everything to change. But I've maintained really so much of myself because I still do the things that are important to me as an individual as well as things that are important to my family.
Yeah. I think that's so important to talk about because I know that we've spoken about it and, I'd love to have kids one day, but I always put, being a mum as something that I wasn't really keen on. I'm like, I'm happy to be an auntie. I'm happy to be like a godmother or a fake auntie to like my friends' babies and things like that. But I was like, the thing that scared me the most was I'd never seen anybody I know that was able to hold a job or a career and be a mum at the same time. So I've never had that modeled for me in my circle, my friendship group, nothing.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until you've had kids, I've had a couple of other people that have maintained their career and had children that I'm like, okay, this could be something that's possible. And I think that you're so right. It is such a big fear for people of either losing their identity or not being able to do the thing that lights them up, like their work. And
which is a big part of if you like what you do for work, obviously, if you don't like it, then you couldn't care less.
Yeah.
But if you do love what you do, and if it's a huge part of your identity in a good way, then it's important that you keep that. Yes, take the leave that you need to take, or, you know, however you work it out when the baby's born. But it's very important that you always do something that's for yourself. I think that even if you say my purpose is to have children, that is fine. You can have more than one purpose, and you might just be born to be a mother. But I think no matter who you are, you have to do something that you do for you, because if you're always living for someone else, those people are going to need you less and less, and you're going to feel redundant because you know, like you see a lot of people once the kids move out, they're like, oh, I'm an empty nester. What am I doing? You know, and they just don't feel like they're themselves. They feel a bit lost, you know, 20 years down the line. Where I think is if you always have something for you, not only it's good for your own mental health, but you actually show up as a better person. I mean, look, I'm speaking from my experience, to be honest. Like, I'm not saying that people who only, you know, want to focus on being a mother don't show up in that way. But for me, for sure, that's been the case.
No, I completely get it. I think, do you think that there's anything that you understanding the brain and how the brain works and that kind of neurological side of things, do you think that there's a connection between having something for yourself and that like self-esteem or like self-worth?
Of course, because the more autonomy you have, the better your relationship is with yourself, the more confidence you have, the higher your self-esteem. So if you spend everything like to be based around constantly doing everything for others and nothing for yourself, you're actually losing autonomy. You are losing, like, everything hinges on other people. This idea where so many women, and I would get bombarded with it on social media, and I knew that my situation wouldn't be the same because I knew what my dynamic would be like with Tyrone. But you'd see where these women have to ask their partner for money to get a coffee when they're on mat leave, and they have to, and I'm like, this like just tapped dynamic where it's like, how has it gotten this way? Even if he is the breadwinner, you are entitled to that money. Thank you very much. You just birthed that person's child. But you know, this idea of they don't own anything that's theirs. They don't have, I can never shower on my own. I can never have a shower in peace. That's crazy. You know, for someone to never have a second to themselves, to never have $1 to buy their own coffee, that kind of thing, and it happens because they had children, of course it's going to affect your mental health. When you don't have any level of total independence, real independence and autonomy, even when you have children, even when you have partner, all of these things is always important for your mental health, for your sanity, for your confidence, for your self-esteem, all of that.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think what is then 6 months in, what is the thing that has surprised you the most about becoming a mum?
Kind of how quickly you adapt. I think I've found it quite pleasantly surprised me that I would enjoy motherhood as much as I've enjoyed it. I knew that I would love it, but I didn't think I'd love the baby stage because I was never clucky. I was never like, oh my God, I just wanted a family because I've got a big family. I come from this beautiful, nice extended family. So I just wanted that. But I didn't think I'd enjoy a newborn baby. I thought, oh, that's just, you got to get through that stage. Of course I'll love my child, but no, I'm loving it. It's just the best thing ever. I'm also amazed at how you just learn and adapt and how quickly you absorb information and just make it part of your life. What was daunting before the kids were born, thinking like, how am I going to know how to do all of this stuff and how am I going to keep on top of, like, how you just do. And you just go through the motions quite well. I don't know. I think that we're humans in general are just way more dynamic than we give ourselves credit for. And it's only when you're put in that situation that you really shine. That's why with anything, not just with kids, but when people are umming and ahhing, oh, again, I'm like, you'll do so much better off if you just throw yourself in the deep end and do it. You'll be surprised at how much you can actually work out in the process, you know?
Totally. I think I know we've spoken about it, but the importance of choosing a partner. Yeah. Like, we've spoken about it, babe, a lot.
Yeah, that's the most important decision you'll ever make in your life. Hands down, that's my belief.
Choosing a partner.
Yeah, that is the most important, pivotal, choosing your life partner.
Yeah.
It is, everything hinges on that.
I couldn't agree more. And it's funny thinking about, like, I know we've spoken about this offline, but I never saw myself being a mum. And it wasn't until I'm with my now partner that I'm like, whoa, like, he does stuff at home. Like, he's not expecting me to do all the housework. Like, he wants to take shit off my plate.
Like, he's a partner.
He's a partner, like, which I've referred to other people before as partners, but they've not even been half of what this man is.
Right.
And I think for me, that changed my whole perception on how I foresee myself being a mum. Because prior to that, I was like, well, if I'm doing all the housework, all the cooking, all the shopping, I'm supporting another person plus my baby and trying to maintain my career and my friendships and everything like that, something's got to give.
Yeah.
Whereas if you have a partner, you feel like, oh, we can do anything because we kind of tackle it together.
Yes.
We'll have these open conversations about how we want to parent and things like that.
Have you heard of the dependency paradox?
No, and I want to hear about it.
So it's exactly this. So sometimes like when you have to be so independent, it can actually hinder you, where it's all on you. The more you can depend on someone in a secure, stable way, like talking about secure attachment and all of that, in a secure, stable way, like in your situation and in mine, the more you can be like, I don't have to be hyper independent. I'm allowed to lean on you. You've created a safe space for me. I can ask you to do things for me and not for you going to throw it in my face. You're that base for me. You actually then have more freedom to do more in your life, whether it be become a parent, whether it be explore more avenues in your career, because it actually lightens the load. So it's this paradox thinking, I would think that if I had to depend on someone, then I'm hinging on them and then I would be less independent. It actually, healthy dependency allows for more independency as well.
Which is crazy, right?
Yes.
Because I think like when me and my partner got together, I still say it to this day, like the biggest issue we've had to overcome is that we were both so independent because our independence was a direct, for lack of a better word, a trauma response for being let down in the past.
Of course.
So you become hyper independent because you're like, well, I can't fucking trust anybody. I'll just do it by myself. And the hardest thing was having two independent people come together and then be like, hey, we can depend on each other and you can let go a little bit.
Yeah.
What would you say if someone is at a point in their life where they're like, is this the right person for me to have a child with, or is perhaps looking for somebody that will help them be that person?
Yeah.
What advice would you have?
I think when I was looking at, well, firstly, you have to decide, am I okay with never having children, or is children a non-negotiable? Because if for you children is a non-negotiable, you're probably going to accept more shit, if that makes sense. Like you kind of think, well, you know, no matter what, I will have children, even if I have to take the hard road, which is fine. There's no judgment on that. And some women are like that. They're like, I might have to go at it alone. I might have to have kids with this person who's probably not the most supportive partner or helpful or whatever, or they won't pull their own weight. But for me, I knew my whole life I would be happy without kids. I was like, I could be child-free and live a very happy life. I wanted them, but I knew that it would be okay if I didn't. So therefore, I could be quite picky with what my decisions were around who would be the father, because, you know, I could say, you know, it's never working out, no problem. With Tyrone, I always thought, and it's important before you have kids, you have to make it clear, what are your expectations of me as a parent, day to day, not overarching. We wake up, what happens? Ask your partner that, genuinely, because then they start thinking, oh, well, I'll go to work and whatever. No. We wake up and the children wake up. What is happening? You know, like, because then it's like, if this person hasn't even fathomed, oh my God, yeah, true, who's going to do it? You start thinking, because a lot of the time there's this expectation, even if you are 50-50 financially in the household, there is an expectation that the woman just does more with the babies. And a lot of that expectation comes from because you start off breastfeeding. You already start doing more, whether you want to or not. At the beginning, the woman, especially if she's breastfeeding, is doing more. And then it, like, the scale kind of tips and whatever. But if you can't have a conversation with your partner and you feel either uncomfortable or they can't answer your questions, that's a red flag.
Yeah.
You need to sit down and say, what are your expectations? And you should be able to answer the same back from them. And you should see how they react when you voice what your expectations are of them.
Yeah.
As a father, as a mother, all of that. Yeah.
And did you have that conversation before you had kids?
Yes, we did.
And just point blank?
Yeah, because we started trying.
Yeah.
And then I thought, let's talk about these things. Because then he'd start saying, oh, you know, like I might be working a couple of days a week at this place. And I said, okay, pause. If this was the case, what would the dynamic look like? How would help step in otherwise? Would I be getting help from this and that? And then how would you deal if I had to go away for a couple of days? What would that dynamic look? And so then we started discussing that more and more, which is really helpful because you won't have all the answers and that's okay. But at least your partner starts to see where the expectations are as far as the division of you know,
totally,
of tasks.
I think think the scariest thing is when I overhear either couples or people that I know and they've not even had the conversation, like, and she's like either had the baby or just about to have the baby. And I'm like, surely those are the things that you should speak about before you fall pregnant.
Yeah,
like
they are.
But people are too scared to have that conversation.
They're too
They're scared to lose
and push the person away. And, you know, I think especially as women, we're so used to this expectation that we're going to have all the responsibility that we feel guilty asking for something that is a given, you know. And yeah, I think it's also important that when you have children, have it with someone who wants to be a dad or a parent.
Yeah. Hello, just a reminder, this podcast only works because you're here. If you haven't subscribed yet, it's the easiest way to support me. So go on, hit subscribe. I'll wait. Okay, now back to the episode.
Don't have, like, you'll hear a million people say, oh, I want kids, but not say I want to be a parent. I want to raise somebody. I want to raise a human. I want to, you know, so there's a difference. You know, are you like passing on the bloodline and this ridiculous thing about the, what do you call it, legacy, which is a joke? Or do you actually want to raise someone? So I think all those things are so important.
And they're two different roles, right?
Yeah.
Like one is like a split second of having a kid for a guy.
Yeah.
And one is a lifetime.
Like if you really care about your gene pool dying out, go and do someone a favor and donate your sperm to a family that needs it. But you're not doing that. So you're just, you know what I mean? Like,
no, I love it. Now, you know that I love the way that you think and the way that you articulate. I had this thought that came up the other night. It was after we had dinner and I was like, I wonder if the brain changes as you become a parent or a mum.
Yeah.
Like mum specifically, but as a parent, does your brain evolve?
Yes.
Like, obviously it adapts and it changes to the environment around it.
Of course.
But are there any kind of significant neurological things?
Yeah, so they're like, even with scans and stuff, they found that there are physical changes that occur within the brain. This is more so studies that were done on women's brains, mothers' brains, and they did find a reduction in certain regions of the brain in the early stages and then more activity in other regions of the brain that had to account for kind of this interpersonal relationships and empathy and like anything to do with like caring and to do with being hyper aware and alert of your surroundings. So that's why you could, for me, for example, I would sleep through anything back in the day. But now, the smallest thing I'll wake up from, only if I know my kids are in the room, because the kids sleep in the room with us in their cots. If I'm on a business trip away or whatever, I'm dead to the world, sleep like a log. So it's like, it's almost like I'm primed, but I'm also, it's not that I'm a poor sleeper, it's that I'm primed to be hyper aware of my kids. Or my dog for that matter, because I always wake up with when I've been waking up. So you become, and a lot of people say, oh, you know, mum brain and your cognitive performance goes down. And those things are more likely based on the research. It seems that this mum brain and the why your cognitive performance goes down, it's very much due to, well, the huge hormonal changes that you have acutely in that time. It's not like your brain matter is reducing to the point that it's affecting your cognitive ability, but it's sleep deprivation.
Yeah.
A lot of the time, a lot of women are blaming motherhood when they're very sleep deprived and they don't have the resources around them to support them. They don't have a time to catch up on their sleep and have a nap during the day because they don't have the assistance or the help. So of course their cognitive performance is going to take a hit. Anyone who's sleep deprived, parent or not, is going to take a very huge hit to your short-term memory, your recall ability, your focus, all of that. So I think it's very natural, and you have to have a bit of grace when you go through that period. If you're very forgetful and very clumsy and very whatever, and you're not sleeping, that's, I think I don't want women to feel scared thinking that they're going to have this huge shrinkage in the brain overall and it's going to affect their cognitive ability, because the changes that you see don't affect your cognitive performance in the long term.
They actually make you more empathetic.
Yes, they make you more empathetic and actually a better leader.
So tell me then, with that in mind, there's a lot of chat about hiring women after they've had kids or whilst they're pregnant. The unconscious biases that come with hiring a woman that has kids versus hiring a man that has kids. What benefits would you say as an employer would come with hiring a mum?
A lot of mothers do make very good leaders. Of course, you also have to have the professional skill set, obviously.
Yeah.
But there is a lot to be said for women being really good, well, mothers also being really good leaders because of their ability to understand, like these relationships, like the emotional side of a relationship, and being able to lead a team better because of that. Mm-hmm. It's less black and white. And I think that we can't act like emotions don't play such a big role in how we lead a team. Because we are human at the end of the day. We're not a bunch of just computers or robots. So I think that's where women can really have an advantage there.
I agree. You spoke about mum brain before.
Yeah.
Mum guilt is a term that is thrown around all the time. Like, I have guilt about leaving my babies or going to do work or whatever.
Yeah.
Is it a thing? Is it like is guilt a neurological symptom? Like,
yes. Yeah, well, yes and no.
Okay.
There's the conditioning.
Sure.
And then there is the genuine symptom. So I think, and separate to mum guilt, think about guilt in general. There's the guilt that you feel when you know you yourself could have done something but you didn't.
Yeah.
So it goes against what you stand for, guilt, versus when someone's tried to make you feel guilty. And then you're like, oh, I feel bad. But then if you reason, you're like, wait a minute, maybe I shouldn't, so there's the conditioned guilt where people use guilt as a currency on you and try and make it manipulate, like, your actions. Or there's the real guilt of, say you were a bit rude to someone and then you leave and you're like, that's not me. Why was I rude? And then of course you're going to feel bad. That's actually a healthy response because it helps us curb our behaviors.
Sure.
So I think when it comes to mum guilt specifically, sometimes if we didn't spend, for example, if I go to work because I have to make a living to pay for my family, but then I do have quality time with my children, I don't feel guilty. If I have spent a really good quality afternoon playing, engaging, this and that, and then half an hour before their bedtime, I go and meet my best friend for a drink while Tyrone does the bedtime, I don't feel guilty. If I was away from them all day or I spent time on my phone scrolling while they were right there, I would feel guilty. So notice the difference. One that's in my control and I was wasting away time that I could have spent with them, and then I think back in hindsight, that's time I'm never going to get back, and really what did I gain? Versus things that make me a better person or benefit the family, then I don't feel guilty. I think it's important that you have a social life and that you have a work life because it actually benefits the family unit,
It's also that conscious decision, right?
Exactly.
It's like if you're mindlessly scrolling and your baby's there, that's a conscious decision that you've made, or a subconscious decision that you've made that you then reflect on.
You reflect on it and then you think, well, I didn't have to do that and I gained nothing. It's different to like, okay, I don't have to meet up with my friend for a drink, but it benefits me. I'm a better person. It gives me it's good for my mental health. It gives me a well-rounded thing. I'm also not going out every single night.
She's not hitting the gloves.
Yeah, hitting the gloves. But do you know what I mean? It's like that nice balance. And if I feel like when I'm with my kids, I'm giving the best of myself when I'm with them, then I don't feel guilty. I think a lot of women also buy into having to feel guilty. A lot of people, someone asked my best friend recently, she's like, oh, did you struggle so much when you went back to work and you had to leave your kid at daycare? She was like, no, I didn't. She's like, I didn't struggle. She goes, I love my job. I'm very good at it. I really enjoy doing it. My kid loves going to daycare.
Literally.
So she was just like, why do we have to feel guilty? How else am I going to put a roof over his head? Like
literally
with smiles, like how are we going to do it? You know what I mean? So why feel guilty when he's well looked after and happy? I'm doing a job that I love. We have great mornings, great evenings, great weekends. That's a great dynamic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Has it changed how obviously you've documented a lot of your life over the years, like from when I first met you and we were both into kind of hardcore fitness and
good times,
activewear and all of that.
So good.
All the way through to like where you are now. Obviously, like how you've showed up has evolved and changed through your various life stages. And I know that your live show talks about those life stages as well. Yeah. How do you find that you've evolved now how you show up as a mum?
I feel like it's made me a bit more inconsistent, for sure. I wish I was a bit more consistent, and that's the direction I want to head in, like aim for a bit more consistency. But I do think that I'm trying to show a bit of both sides. I think at first I thought, when I have kids, maybe I won't bring any of that into my content at all. But then I thought, well, it is part of me and it's part of this next evolution in my life. And it's hard not to talk about it. It's important that I do.
Totally.
As long as it doesn't completely take over my content, because I don't want to change my content altogether either. So I think it's nice to try and include a bit of that, and also how I've evolved and how I've changed. I think it's important.
Yeah, and you said that obviously like things change, like silly to assume that they won't. Obviously there's 2 humans that you are keeping alive essentially for, the foreseeable future, which is crazy. Your life is busy generally.
Yeah.
Add 2 children, twins, to the mix, chaos. Overwhelm will play a role at some point. Do you think that you're able to manage those things better because you understand how the brain works?
Yeah, definitely.
And you're just like, oh, there's a reason for that. Because I feel as though for me, if I have a reason as to why I'm thinking the way that I'm thinking, I'm like, oh, I'm just in my head again.
Yeah.
But if I can't name it, or I can't like pinpoint why I'm feeling the way I'm feeling, I'm like, it frustrates me even more.
Yeah.
So how do you deal with
100%.
overwhelm?
So there's so many things that you can do, and again, like everyone's going to find tools that work for them and tools that don't. For me, one of naming it to tame it is a great one. So just literally naming the emotion you're feeling in that moment is proven to, at the very least, take the edge off, if not reduce it dramatically. The intentional sigh is a huge one. So if both the babies are screaming at the exact same time and there's no way that you can settle both of them and I'm just alone with them at home, an intentional sigh is so good to regulate your nervous system. Just one really big deep breath in and one really, do 3 of those in a row. You actually start to regulate your nervous system because you go from tense, fight or flight, you're switching from like your operating system. When you're like tight like this, you're breathing shallow, you're stressed, and you're tense, and then you're getting hot and bothered. And of course your body is thinking, okay, if I'm shallow breathing, if I'm hunched over, if I'm like, I've got to be ready to react. Like I'm in a highly stressed, high cortisol state. If I start taking deep breaths, I'm telling my nervous system I'm not in threat, because when you're not threatened, that's when you relax, open your chest up and take a nice big deep breath. So you're tricking your nervous system into thinking I'm no longer under stress. Like dogs do it all the time. I said,
so my dog does it all the time.
The dogs do it all the time. It's a change of state. When I'm ready to change my state, do a big sigh. That's why they do a huge sigh before they fall asleep. They could have been having like, and then they'll do like 3 circles or 10, then finally lie down and then...
Literally my dog, I'm like, she huffs like she works an 80-hour week.
She's changing her state. She's like, I'm ready to change states.
No, I love
that. So in the middle of a stressful moment, I'll do this intentional sigh. And another thing that I always remind myself is this will not last. The moments of high stress are acute. If I can just get through the next 5 minutes, I'm probably going to be good, and they'll have relaxed by then. So all these little things, like reminding myself of the intentional sigh, I manage day to day very well, and trust me, it's no joke with twins sometimes, but like, yeah.
I can only imagine. I remember you saying that like one time, well, it probably happens more than once, but like the naps don't sync.
Yeah.
So you've got like one's up, one's down, one's up, one's down.
Yeah, and then it's just like, and then and then they both go down, and then 1 minute later the one, and so you're like, and then that's it. Every job that you had planned for that day goes completely out the window. Now, don't get me wrong, I have days where we have help or family or whatever. Like there are days where I block out for work for sure, but there are days where it's just me with them. You just have to also expectations on yourself. That's a really good way to manage your stress. If I start the day saying, it would be nice if I had pockets of time today to get these things done. However, I'm setting myself up to know that that may not happen. And if it doesn't, then it's all good. So because if it was urgent, then I would be calling in Mum, Tyrone, whatever, I need 1 hour. This is non-negotiable. I have to do this. There's a deadline. But if there isn't a deadline, then you have to set the expectation at the start of the day. That way, if it is one of those non-napping sync days, then I think, oh, it is what it is.
Yeah.
It is what it is, and it's fine. It's one day at a time. Yeah.
If you know what you know now, 6 months in, and you had to go back to you before you fell pregnant, what's one piece of advice that you'd give yourself?
I was very relaxed in my pregnancy, but I would just have no fears around this identity thing. One thing that I am really grateful for is that I really did have so many experiences in my 20s. I really lived that independent life of, so not that I still don't want to do those things, I still do, but it's going to look different now. But I'm very glad I lived a very full life before the kids, because now I was very comfortable to enter this chapter. And that was one thing in my pregnancy. I knew I wanted the kids, but I was very like, will I be ready for that chapter? Will I feel like I'm missing out? And no, at no point have I felt like I'm missing out. Even when I've had to say no to certain events or no to certain social things, I don't feel like I'm missing out. And I think I would have said that to myself, like, you'll be amazed at how much you kind of ease into this You know, like, you know, those people that kind of wait for the partner and wait, like, when will I meet this partner? And I just want us to fall pregnant, and they're waiting. Live your life. Go and live your life, because whether you wait for someone or whether you don't, time is going to pass anyway. You need to go and have those experiences, live your life. Don't be waiting around for that relationship to roll around, and if it does, for them to be ready to have a child. Like, don't. Because then you'll have the kid and you'll resent yourself, because you're like, now I really am grounded.
Yeah.
And then I think a lot of people find themselves in that situation and have that struggle with their identity, because they're like, when did I live for me?
And they've spent their whole life waiting for somebody else. Yeah. I love that. How do you manage that now with kids? Like, obviously there is that element of flexibility, and it's a place of privilege to obviously have as much help as you do, or help generally, even a partner in some instances. You know, some women don't have partners raising their kids. But how do you manage your time now where you're like, you've still got a business to run, you've still got work to do? How does your week look like?
It's very all over the place.
Streamline.
I have an assistant, Shania, and she's a godsend for sure. Like,
shout out Shania.
Shout out to Shania. Literally every podcast I'm like, Shania. Like, she is just the best. So that's a huge, huge help. And like, you know, you need to put, when you run your own business, and when you have to put things into place to make things happen, because you know, you have to spend the money where it's going to really reap the benefits. And for me, that's in Shania, for sure. It helps organize a lot of things. She helps, you know, with like what's a deadline and what's not. Another thing that's so important is really know the difference between an absolute deadline urgent versus what we say is urgent but may not be that urgent. And you have to really flesh that out. At the start, it was very haphazard. Now I'm slowly getting back into a bit of a rhythm. I also feel like I have the potential to be more organized now than I did before kids, because I think when you have more responsibility, you almost have more of a reason to be organized. I think when there's less responsibility, you can get away with not being as organized. So that's your default. So I was saying to you at dinner the other night that my word for the year is organized or streamlined, because I have to. I don't have an option, because if I am all over the place, then it's going to my work will suffer. And I could have gotten away with it in the past, but now I can't. So I think in a way it benefits me having more on my plate, because it forces me to start structuring things a little bit better. And you know, you think if I have an hour, I probably would have gotten 3 things done in the past. Now I get 10 things done, you know?
Totally. It's that whole saying of like, give me 5 hours to clean the house, it will take me 5 hours. Give me 30 minutes and the house will be clean in 30 minutes.
Definitely. I'm on my phone way less now, way less. And I'm pretty good with managing my time on social media, but I'm telling you, way less than what it used to be.
Yeah.
For sure.
And do you think, like, I know the concept of work-life balance, I hate it, because I think it looks different for everyone. And also it is what you make it, right? Like, I don't think it's work-life. I think it's just life and we manage it. How do you view that now as a mum versus pre-babies?
I'm much better at completely switching off from work when I'm spending time with the babies. I think for me, one thing that I've made very clear in my head and to myself is I never want to have regrets. And if I'm going to be spending time with my children, even if it's like, if it's a full day or if it's just a couple of hours, I'm going to be there, present. I'd rather be present, you know, for a solid 2 hours, present, than half-assing being distracted the whole time, all day. Because what does that give them? Nothing. Like, you're just floating around, but you're not actually there. So for me, when I'm not working, I'm really in the moment present with them. And that's something that I'll never regret. You know, I'll never look back being like, oh, well, I wasn't present. So that I feel really happy about that. And I want to carry that through my whole life with them. But I think it also, the idea of work-life balance, it's never a perfectly balanced thing. I think Rachel Dillon mentioned this in a podcast once when I was chatting to her, but she talks about like there's cylinders firing and you've got one that's firing at 100%, one maybe at 80, one at maybe 20, one at maybe, and then the other one, you bring it to 100, but then the other one, it's never even, never. As long as you give enough attention, and like you're just always playing this fine game of like, oh, that one's gone down, now I've got it, but now this one's going to drop down. But as long as you can just be across it and be aware when one's suffering, not wait till it's fully drained, like relationships, often you'll be like, kids, work, and your relationship is down in the dumps. So it's like, it's just know where your attention is needed and know that you can't spread yourself evenly. But as long as you can keep checking in, I think that's the main thing.
This conversation doesn't end here. Part 2 is where we go deeper. Make sure you subscribe so you know when part 2 drops. Remember, you don't win by posting more. You win by being the name they think of first. Stay top of mind.